This is Lifestyles. I'm Lillian Vasquez. As part of our segment, Jobs You Don't Always Think About, today we're going to talk with Laura Vorreyer. She is a pet sitter. Now, she is so much more than that, and we'll learn about her career and the journey that she has taken along the way. Welcome to Lifestyles.
Great to be here.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Did you always know as a little girl you wanted to be a pet sitter?
No, absolutely not. And in fact, this kind of job, this career, this industry, it didn't even exist. When I was sitting in, 4th and 5th grade and teachers were asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? It wasn't a profession that would ever enter anyone's mind. So no, to answer your question, I never thought of it. And I actually think it really didn't exist. People certainly weren't making a living or a career out of being professional dog walkers and pet sitters.
All right, well, let's take it down that journey. How did you fall into this? I have to say, I did read a little bit about this in preparation for the interview. And when I read that you had connected with a fairly famous comedian, I have to tell you, Paula Poundstone ran through my mind. But it didn't say in that article if it was Paula Poundstone. So I'm going to ask you, how did you fall into this and take me down that journey?
Sure, absolutely. I lived in Chicago my whole life. I went to makeup school. I really wanted to be a makeup artist. So in 2002, I thought, well, I'm not getting any younger. This is the perfect time for me to go to LA and become a makeup artist for film and television. That would be the big dream.
Nice.
And I began to really struggle. It just was going very badly for me, quite frankly. And I was just working, just anything you could do to sort of get myself from month to month to just keep myself afloat and pay my rent and pay my bills. And I was walking a dog on a set for an actress, and I was really very worried at the time about how I was going to make ends meet and what I could do to maybe book more makeup work. And I was walking the dog and concentrating, and out of a trailer came the comedian Paula Poundstone.
I was right.
You're right. And she came right up to me, and, she said, hey, that's a really cute dog. And I wasn't really talking to her. I knew who she was, but I thought, you know what? I know better than to talk to a celebrity, right? It's just like a celebrity 101. And then she just said to me, hey, are you one of those professional dog walkers? And I was like, oh, my God. And now she thinks I'm a professional dog walker, which I do. I could pitch her. I'm a makeup artist. But then I was like, you know what? I know that's not going to go anywhere. Or I could just go with it. She asked me if I'm a professional dog walker. I'm getting paid to walk this dog. I'm doing it. Therefore, I am a professional in this moment. I just said, I am. I'm a professional dog walker. And she said, great. Can I hire you? I really need a dog walker for my dog, Cal. And I said, oh, my gosh, yes. Can I start today? And that's how it really all started. It just started with her asking me if I was a professional dog walker.
Wow. I knew Paula Poundstone was behind it somehow. Just because she has so many animals.
She's a wonderful person.
Yeah, and I've interviewed her, I've chatted with her, but she has so many animals. And
so many.
I'm glad to know it was Paula Poundstone. Okay, so did you end up walking Paula's dog?
I absolutely did. I walked Paula's dog, Cal, for a long time, and it just led me to more and more work, and that's how it all started. And ironically, once I started doing the dog walking and pet sitting, that other drive to be a makeup artist and the phone calls and all the other stuff, it just fell away. It was sort of like the one door opened and the other closed, and I remember selling my makeup kit and all my supplies.
Wow.
And just not looking back ever. It was like it was kind of meant to be.
My guest is Laura Vorreyer. She is a pet sitter. And so now just playing with that or talking about your career and doing that, did it kind of control your life, though, because maybe now you couldn't go places because you had so many pets to take care of? Or explain how you balance that.
Oh, there was no balance, frankly. I did pet sitting and dog walking 24/7. As a matter of fact, there was a time where I wasn't home for practically a month because I started to immediately realize people had a need for someone to come into their home and sleep overnight with their pets, especially if they traveled a lot.
Right.
And they didn't want to take them to, a boarding facility, or they didn't have a friend that they could go to. And I managed to get a client right away up in Malibu, and he traveled quite a bit. He had a home here, and then he had a home in New York, and he would go back and forth. Well, he had a big dog, and he didn't like his dog to have to go on the plane, and it was just a hassle for him to bring his dog back and forth. So he would just call me up and say, hey, I'm leaving Thursday. I won't be back to next Friday. Just move on in. And I would do that, and then I would just make the Malibu home my home base and walk my dogs from there. And then at the end of the day, I would go back to his house. His house became my house, and his dog was my dog. And no, I didn't have any balance. I wasn't craving balance, though. I was really needing to work to earn the money to sort of catch up. I had been, really struggling. So there was no balance. There was no social life. There was no, going to Palm Springs or going to Vegas on the weekend. There was just working and working and working and more working, and I was grateful for it.
I'm guessing a lot of your clients would have been word of mouth so that you would pick up other clients because they trusted you with their furry pets.
Or they saw me. That's what happened a lot, interestingly, is that people would see me coming every day at the same time, and they would see how happy their dogs were, and they would just know that I was reliable. And I know several times I would be coming out of someone's house, and there would be a total stranger standing there, and they're like, I live across the street, and I saw you with, Alfie, and are you must be dog walking and pet sitting for them. Would you do that for me, too, because you're in the neighborhood? And they would kind of sell it to me like, hey, I'm going to be easy, I'm right across the street, the dogs like each other, maybe they can walk together, would you do that? So I just picked up a lot of business by people just seeing me in the neighborhoods.
Now let's talk about the business aspect of it. It sounds like you're enjoying it, you're outside, you're in our beautiful weather, especially right now. Was there insurance or things that you had to worry about when you're taking on clients, kind of the business end? Can you share a little bit of that?
Yes, absolutely. So just, bit of a learning curve for me. So when I first started dog walking and pet sitting, I wasn't carrying any insurance, just initially in the beginning, but I do remember going into a client's home and her asking me, like, what kind of insurance do you have? What kind of liability insurance do you have? Do you have insurance in case something happens to my dogs? And I said, you know what, I don't have insurance. I think your homeowners will cover me. I'm going to look into it. And I did, and I found out that there is a pet sitter's insurance available, and there's different packages. And so I joined Pet Sitters International, and I got insurance, and that was great because I started to bring that certificate with me when I would go to meet and greets, and I would show it to clients, and I said, this is my policy, so this will cover you up to $1 million if there's damage in your home. This will cover you if your animal is hurt. This will cover you if I lose your key and you need to rekey your house. So yes, there is insurance, and anybody you hire should have that insurance. I've never had to use my insurance, knock on wood somewhere, but it's really imperative that you have that, because otherwise, you yourself as an individual are liable for anything that could happen, and oh my gosh, that could be very costly and worse. So you really have to have that pet sitter's insurance if you're going to be a professional pet sitter.
What other advice would you offer to someone that might be listening saying, that sounds like something I should do or I could do? What would you suggest? Any other tips you might offer?
Sure. If you like pets and you have, real love and affinity for pets, then I would say start where you're at. Go to your local veterinarian, introduce yourself, go to the dog park, introduce yourself. You can talk to other people that have dogs and might need your service. But one thing I do recommend is get pet first aid certified, especially, this is rattlesnake season, and we're having a real surgeons in rattlesnakes because we had a long, wet winter, and now there's a lot of food out there for rattlesnakes, and it's getting warmer, and they're starting to come out. And, dogs, they're just, happy-go-lucky, and sometimes if they're off-leash and they think what they think is a stick, and they grab it, or even they're nosy, they're putting their noses into holes they shouldn't. So get that first aid, and you can get pet first aid certified, and then maybe, teach yourself what to do to avoid rattlesnakes, especially if you're out here in Southern California like we are.
All right, perfect. My guest is Laura Vorreyer. She is a pet sitter, but she's also an author and an expert in working with dogs, and I assume cats, that you've watched. But let's talk a little bit about maybe some care ideas that we should be conscious of, just in basic, as you started to mention. Keeping our pets safe is a big issue, especially with our wildlife, such as coyotes and raccoons and snakes. Here in the Inland Empire, we have mountain regions around us. Maybe backyards aren't the safest place for pets, or late at night, or dogs and snakes. Let's talk about that.
Sure. The first thing we can do to keep our pets safe, of course, microchip them. Make sure that they're wearing identification. So important. A lot of facilities don't have the machines to check for microchips, so a microchip is a last resort and might not even get checked. So always make sure your pets are wearing a collar with identification on them. And the second most important thing is, if you take your dog out on a walk, make sure you walk it on its leash. You can stumble across a deer, a mountain lion, a rabbit, a squirrel, anything. If your dog has any instincts whatsoever, if it pulls, it's going to get away and it might not come back. So always have your dog on that leash. And in conjunction with that, make sure your dog knows at least one recall word, and keep those high-value treats with you. If your dog gets away, even if it's on the leash, you can, belt out that word and have that treat and just cross your fingers that your pet will return to you.
Laura, you're talking about when we're going on walks. What about when our pets are at home and the other bigger creatures invade our backyard or our front yard space? What do you recommend at that point?
Well, the most important thing you can do is, I never let my dog out in the backyard without going out there with him. Also, he's a senior dog, and he's not very big. He's only, about 15 pounds. I have a large wall around my house, a cinder block wall, but if you have coyotes, you can get these things called rollers that you put on top of your fence, and what the rollers do is they make it impossible for the coyote to get over your fence or wall because they can't get any traction. It just rolls. Oh. And you can make those yourself. You can move them if you move. But I always say that if you have to let your dog out, step outside with them. I know a lot of people have pet doors and they let their pets go in and out. I never advise that, because if your pet goes outside, they can get attacked by coyotes. They can get attacked by larger animals. And now you have a situation where your animal might come back in that house and then bring that animal that's attacking literally right on its tail. So you want to make sure that, you are always out there with your pet, especially at night. If you're outside with your pet, then other animals will see you and hopefully they'll run away. But if you see an animal out in your backyard or front yard at night, you want to make a large amount of noise. Make a lot of noise, because that will scare most animals away. And if you have a case where you have an aggressive wild animal and you can't get them away, it's probably because they have babies in your yard that you want to be looking out for, and you have to make a call then to animal control so they can take next steps.
Now, you're the owner of a pet care company. You've also written a book. Let's talk a little bit about your book, The Pet Sitter's Tale. You're a pet sitter for Hollywood. Can you share a couple of your experiences for some of those pets that you've watched over?
Sure. Celebrities, people like the celebrity aspect because I think it's Hollywood and it's interesting to a lot of people. But, celebrities, they're just like us.
Sure.
They love their pets. They want to pamper them, and they can. So I've seen a lot of celebrity pets, really get the star treatment. They're going in limousines to private jets. They're being flown across the countries for special grooming. They're having those dinners created by personal chefs. They're having clothes made. So, anything that we would kind of dream about, it's happening, but for a celebrity's pet.
Of course, not everyone can work for Hollywood Pets, but what is the reality? Can someone make a living at being a pet sitter or a dog walker, or is it just something that maybe adds to their life in general?
Well, both. I mean, I did it as a full-time career, and I know a lot of people that as well do it as a full-time career. And yes, you can absolutely make good money at this, and it's just as much as you want to work and as much as you want to work at it. The great thing about being a pet sitter and dog walker is that it's low low cost of entry, anybody can
Right.
do it. You just have a business card and a website and you're off and running. So that's what I like about it. And if you have some business skills and you've got some business acumen under your belt, then you could really grow it. You could franchise your business. You can, open up a facility. I don't have a facility, but that was something I had considered at one point. I just read 78% of U.S. households own a pet. So there's no lack of customers, that's for sure. You can make it as big as you want to or as small as you'd like to. I have a lot of people who work with me who are retirees. A lot of people, they live in apartments now. They can't have their own pets, so they really enjoy visiting other people's pet. So just as much as you want it to be, or as small as you'd like it to be. So the sky's the limit.
So are you still walking pets, or do you have others working for you that are walking pets?
I do both. So I have people who work for me, but then I also walk pets. I'm getting ready to leave right after this to go walk a lab mix called Hannah. And so I do both. I really like to stay active with the pets. I mean, this is a great career for someone that wants to be outdoors, for someone that loves pets, of course, and for someone that wants to be naturally active. I mean, I was wearing a pedometer, and they say, oh, you're going to try and aim for 10,000 steps a day. I would take my pedometer off at the end of the day, and I'd be at 30,000 steps and more. And just walking around with the dogs, it's such great exercise, and it's really good for people. It lowers your blood pressure, it boosts morale, it helps with depression and anxiety. When you're focused on a pet, it really is sort of altruistic, so you're not thinking about yourself so much, you're thinking about that animal and its needs and looking after it. So it is such a win-win. I really encourage people, if you do love pets, that this is an ideal career for someone that even a second or third career is just wanting to stay active and hang out with dogs, because it's the best.
Cool. My guest has been Laura Vorreyer. She is a pet sitter and an author. She's written the book, The Pet Sitter's Tale. Laura, thank you so much for sharing your enthusiasm for our furry friends.
Thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
To learn more about Laura Vorreyer, visit our website at kvcrnews.org/lifestyles and click on today's show.